Most are afraid of unknown depths, skirting shores thinking world flat, and with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Fate for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new disposition. Seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the other worlds. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.FALLEN.ANGELS.TV. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Pick it up next week. The watchers whom left their place of habitation, abandoning their ordinances and making pact, conspired to go a-whoring after the daughters of Cain. They took wives of all which they chose, mixing with those women whom the Kebra Nagah says enjoyed the orgies without shame, scenting themselves for the men who would please them. Evil intentions govern the symbiotic relationship of pagan peoples with these so-called gods, the worship of which from initiation was imbued with demand for virgin, victim, blood, or child sacrifice. Modern Satanism in current piety reflects similar accord. What does that say about these so-called gods still ruling from behind the mask of mighty Oz? Most of humanity are still enslaved to such interpretation. The matrix, now ancient, in subjection, is wrapped firmly in the talons of that great dragon, that old serpent known as Satan and the devil, he who deceiveth the whole world. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen, and I thank all of you for taking time to join me this evening as we delve into all things esoteric and speak about and share dialogue on the ancient mysteries which have baffled the minds of most and leaving them in despair. Because few really are capable of understanding the underlying truth which ties together the ancient mysteries with the biblical prophecies and the strange conspiratorial nature of what we're dealing with as world. And for those of us that have wakened up, also I want to welcome everybody in the chat room. Those of you that had said hello to me. I was AFK. I had to pull together a few things for this poem that I wanted to read prior to the show, because it would set premise for what I'm going to talk about this evening. It's going to be a follow-up on what I had begun last week in talking about the timeline as far as the incursion of not only the rebel angels, which fell and were here before the creation of humanity, but also the incursion of the Watchers, which took place during the time of Yard. And so I will go into that in more detail, but just wanted to thank all of you in the chat room, Doc and Mad Painter, Zaphod and Zippy, Thunderbird, Pale Rider, Monkey, Tracy, Kevin, Link, and all the others that are not in the immediate scroll. As always, there's quite a number of people here, and for that I'm very grateful. Um, Hello, Kevin from Massachusetts, and everybody else that is tuning in. And I will be reading your comments as well as I'll be taking phone calls from those of you that might be interested in sharing comment on what I'm going to be talking about this evening, as well as if you have questions, because this is a very interesting topic. And as I was speaking about before we went to break, it's my opinion that very few, are able to connect all the dots and bring together the underlying truth which is found within all things. Because even with what these so-called ascended masters or the ancient aliens, the people that are being abducted and being told different things, even those that were raised in Illuminati families and have memories of a certain aspect of the plan and are able to um, understand the agenda, so to speak, of the New World Order, as what Carolyn calls the organization. Um, it's difficult to grasp all the various aspects of the bigger picture and to make sense of the the weirdness that is associated to the reality that we are really dealing with, because it's so far out. I mean, Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica and all the other sci-fi movies, they pale in comparison to the truth of what we are dealing with as humans, having been incarnated in the flesh here upon this planet, and to all the things that are connected to our prior existence, to our first estate, and that resulted in our being here in the flesh and having to contend with the fallen angels, the demons, and also the children of Cain. This other bloodline, this other lineage, which has no allegiance or duty to the God that most of us worship, the Creator, the one and only true God, the mastermind that brought all of creation into manifest being, including all of us and including all of the various angels which are parading around as gods and goddesses. I'll look at some of your commentary here in just a minute. I know that people are already speaking about, and so I'll try to get to that on the first break, hopefully, and then I'll be able to comment on some of the scroll in the chat. But wanted to just continue setting the premise for this ongoing discussion, because again, I think it's very relevant and very important, because I find that so many people are caught up in what I consider to be the strong delusion. And the strong delusion, in my opinion, has to do with, one, that the ancient aliens, the rebel angels or the Anunnaki, that many people consider them to be the creators of humanity. And there's also a friend had sent me a message in Facebook, which will lead into some of this discussion, and I'll get to her questions in the second part, and that will set a good premise for what we will be some of the other aspects of what we'll be talking about here. Because a lot of people, and I'm talking about very well researched individuals, some of those that I consider to be the wisest, most well researched, as well as well respected individuals that have written numerous books, but many of them, in my opinion, again, are caught up in this strong delusion, meaning that they believe 100% that the Anunnaki were the creators of modern humanity. And they also believe that they are going to be our saviors and that they're going to somehow restore the planet back to its former glory, and that we're all going to ascend together into the the new age, and that it's going to be a glorious time of everything coming to light, and that all the secrets of our past and all the abilities and skills and things which we have lost in regards to abilities like telepathy and foreseeing the future and astral projection or remote viewing, these type of things, that all of that is going to be restored to humanity, and that it will be a return to the great age of light, or what was called by Hesiod as the golden age. And I know a lot of people that believe in the ancient aliens, they absolutely believe that this is what's going to happen, and that that the coming few years, or this coming decade, that humanity will all of a sudden grow up, and all of the differences will be put aside, and will somehow evolve to an enlightened state, and all the things as far as war and the pain and the suffering and all the what we consider to be bad or negative aspects of life here on the planet, that all of that is just somehow going to disappear, and that the ancient aliens are going to lead us into this time of grace and majesty, and that it'll all be good again. Well, it's my opinion that that is all hype. And yeah, they want us to believe that. And I most certainly would love nothing more than for that to be the reality of our coming future. Now, I'm more than most wish that upon the world and upon our children, and even for ourselves. There's nothing I would want more than for all of us to to somehow be part of a grand awakening that would usher in this kind of a time. But what you are not taking into account, and the factor that you are excluding is that the children of Cain, as the physical blood lineage of the devil, they are the ones that control and rule the world as far as the power, the money, um, the control that sit on the thrones of the world today. They don't want anything to do with any of that. I'll get to that here in a short bit, Olive. Olive asks, and then what will happen then in the next period? And so I will cover all that. But let me still continue with, I guess, this rant. The children of the devil, and as well as the devil and the rebel angels and the demons which are walking upon this planet and that are abducting people and causing chaos and leading people astray and leading people to rape, pillage, and plunder and murder, and they love the anarchy. They love the insanity. They feast on the schizoid energy of this kind of chaos. And for right now, because this world is under the throne, under the rulership of Satan and the fallen angels, that we will never get to a golden age until Yeshua returns to fulfill the fall feast. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the 7 feasts and festivals that are laid out in Leviticus chapter 23, Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Festival of First Fruits, which fall on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of Nisan, which is in March according to God's calendar. But anyways, these 3 days were fulfilled by the crucifixion, burial, and resurrection of Christ in his first incarnation. And then Pentecost, or Sukkot, if you don't know what the festival of Sukkot and Pentecost is, you count 7 weeks, 7 Sabbaths from the day of first fruits, which is the 16th of Nisan. And the 50th day after the day of first fruits is called Pentecost. And that is a celebration of the time that the people were freed from the bondage. The Israelites were freed from the bondage of Egypt. And for the 50 days that led to Moses receiving the Torah on Mount Sinai, the Sukkot, the Feast of Sukkot, or Pentecost, which Sukkot means weeks in Hebrew. This festival marks and honors the receiving of the law, the receiving of the Torah by the people of Israel. But what other people don't know is that it also marks the day, 50 days after the resurrection of Christ, the Holy Spirit came upon his apostles. And so, anyways, and so those 4 spring festivals were fulfilled by the first coming of Christ. And they are linked to the prophetic nature of his coming as well as his return. And so, anyways, the 7 feasts and festivals that are laid out in Leviticus chapter 23, Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Festival of First Fruits, which fall on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of Nisan. And the 50th day after the day of first fruits is called Pentecost. And that is a celebration of the time that the people were freed from the bondage. The Israelites were freed from the bondage of Egypt. And for the 50 days that led to Moses receiving the Torah on Mount Sinai, the Sukkot, the Feast of Sukkot, or Pentecost, which Sukkot means weeks in Hebrew. This festival marks and honors the receiving of the law, the receiving of the Torah by the people of Israel. But what other people don't know is that it also marks the day, 50 days after the resurrection of Christ, the Holy Spirit came upon his apostles. And so, anyways, the golden age, or what is termed as the millennial reign, won't happen here on this planet until that time. And it speaks about in, I believe it's in Luke chapter 21, how the days that are coming before then are the worst that have ever been on this planet. And so that's why we're going to see, in my opinion, not the ancient aliens leading us into a golden age, or into an enlightened age, or all the ascended masters coming down and all of a sudden making all things better. That's not going to happen. I know that's what a lot of New Agers expect, and they're all hoping that this will, that we're all of a sudden going to be taken into this enlightened age, and the war will be wiped out. But those are all lies. Even the New World Order, they tell you that they are going to bring order out of chaos, and that the only time there will be a seeming peace, a seeming restoration, is when the Antichrist comes to power and gives the illusion of peace and the return to a semblance of normality to the world. And so, this is, in my opinion, what will happen over the next, who knows how long. I'm not saying that, I don't know exactly when, the crap will hit the fan, so to speak, or when the tribulation will begin, or when things will really, really get bad. A financial collapse, a reset of the global currency, the loss of the dollar as far as being the world's reserve currency. Because all these things are in play too. And they will cause a ripple down effect which will destroy America as we know it. And there's no way that we can continue to sustain, there's no way you can contain, that we can sustain the levels of debt that we are incurring every day. At some point, the rug is going to be pulled out from beneath our feet, and Americans are going to be forced to live differently than we are right now. And there's also no way that America will continue being the world leader as far as quality of life. And so all of these things are in the works and will unfold. And for those of you that have not read the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, or what the elites have written down for where they want to lead the world, if you've not read this or studied these things, they tell you as to the kind of insanity that they have in store for world. And so I'm not, I'm not trying to burst your bubble or trying to be a so-called doom and gloomer, because I absolutely pray for the best, and I pray for reprieve too. And I don't want myself or any of you or my children to have to live in a world as described by the New World Order, the police state, yes, I know America's already fallen, but it's going to get a lot worse than what it is. All right, we've got a caller, so let me see. Yeah, caller 336.
Yes.
Yeah, what's your name?
John,
Hey, John, where are you calling from?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. All right. Did you have a question or a comment that you'd like to add to the program?
Um, well, I just wanted to know now th- um, what is it that you're talking about tonight?
Have you even been listening to the show?
I just called up.
Well, maybe you should listen to the show before you call in, then, because you really can't add anything if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Is this Garcia?
This is.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. I'll try to call back later. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, listen to the show before you call in.
Right. I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. All right. Well, we're almost at first break, and so when we get to this break, I'll take a look at the commentary and also I'll pull up this question, some of these questions that this person asked, so that we can talk about some of this other stuff. But I'm going to also be speaking more about, what had happened in our ancient past that led to where we are now, and help people to get a better grasp on those things so that you can make sense of what took place, again, that led us to here. All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen. I want to first address something that Comet had said in the chat. He said the King James has been manipulated. What makes you think it's true? And here's my answer to that question. First, there's a mathematic code that has been discovered within it. You can look to the work of Ivan Panin, Panin, to better understand all of the what can't be replicated, all of the mathematics that align to all the different things that he was able to discover about the biblical text as laid out by the King James Version of the Bible. Now, I know that King James himself was a bisexual Freemason, and that he was in no way a holy man. But I also know that it says within the scriptures that the Most High would lead the scribes and the prophets to write and cite down the scriptures in the way that he would want them. And so it's my opinion that the King James Version of the Bible is prophetic, and being an English translation of the Hebrew and the Greek text, that it is prophetic, and that it was cited to us in the way that the Most High wanted it. And the reason I say this is because there is another code, the Bible code, which is based on equidistant letter sequencing, and that in itself, you're able to find all kind of different prophetic things utilizing this particular code. And there's no way for it to have ever been encoded into a document thousands of years ago without somebody somebody divinely inspiring it that way into the text. And so, even though, yes, there are some translation errors, or the translators pick different certain words to translate certain things, still, even all of that, it still, in my opinion, is given to us in the manner that the Most High wanted it to be scribed down as. And again, the Bible code being encoded in it is proof of the divinely inspired nature of the text, the fact that it is 100% prophetic and has encoded within it, within the stories of the gospel, things that have happened thousands of years in advance, that were cited thousands of years in advance of their actually happening and taking place. Those kind of things just can't be made up by men. And so those are two things that absolutely assert to the divinely inspired nature of the King James Version of the Bible, as well as many of the other Aramaic texts, like the Targum, the Aramaic translations of the Hebrew Torah. And so, no matter how you feel about it, as far as whether you hate Christianity or not, or don't believe in the Most High God as is laid out in the Old Testament, or you believe that Christ is a fairy tale, all of these things are prophetically true. And so that's why I personally am a student and a disciple of not only the scriptures, but of Yeshua as Savior Messiah. Now, you can make all your own choices, of course. I personally also have studied everything out there as far as what you can find, as far as the books of wisdom from all around the world. I've studied all the Sumerian teachings, many of the Native American traditions, everything I can find and get my hands on, I have studied and read. And this is, again, it's only my personal opinion, but I absolutely know that Yahweh, YHWH, Yahweh Elohim, is the creator, and that he and the Son were the creators of all things, including us, including our spirits, including the angels, including the rebel angels, the watchers, the fallen angels, all of the angels of the Most High, all of them were created by the Father and Son, as it says in John chapter 1. All right. So I'm going to read just a little bit from a couple of questions from other people. One is from, let me pull up her name, Stephanie Gonzalez. And this is interesting because she's an atheist, and she sent me this question, kind of a little rant, but I thought it would be interesting to share this with you and then to answer it accordingly. She says, get ready for a big run-on sentence. Have you ever found in your studies the reason why God, being omnipotent and omniscient and omnipresent, would let hell be created and let man come into existence, knowing people would have horrible lives and suffer eternally? The average atheist doesn't really respond. doesn't really respond much to the answer of our free will. I don't know if you've ever found something deeper that would help me myself with that answer and others who are atheists. It doesn't make sense to many, but that question with a good answer, I believe, can save millions. All right, and so I'm going to answer her question. Well, first off, hell was not created for humanity. It even says that within the scriptures. Hell was created for the fallen angels, the rebel angels that went to war against the Most High, and that, the 1/3 of the angels that rebelled against him, hell was created for them. And the reason it was done so is because even after they were given free will, rather than serve him, serve the Most High God, they wanted to be as God themselves. And rather than live in a harmonious world under the monarchy of the Most High God, the Father and the Son, because again, both of them are God, he gave the angels free will, and then Lucifer decided he wanted to be as the Most High, and then he tempted 1/3 of the angels to join him in rebellion and overthrowing God so that they could assert their will for the world and create, lead creation in how they wanted to run things, which we're getting a good taste of that with the whole, agenda of the New World Order, the police state measures, the rule with impunity, the, again, murder, rape, pillage, and plunder that they have us all involved in as world. And so hell was not created for humanity. It has been expanded in order to accommodate those, as far as humanity, those that join and align with Lucifer in his continue and ongoing rebellion, because the war in heaven is now taking place and has been extended to this planet. The enmity that began in the garden with the birth of Cain, the beguilement of Eve, the seduction of Eve by Lucifer, and her impregnation with Cain as the firstborn hybrid son of the devil, that he was the one that began the bloodline, the lineage of the children of the devil here upon this planet. And as I said in the first part of the last 15 or 30-minute segment, they do not worship or serve the same God as the sons of Adam. They do not want goodwill and joy and peace and, and all the good things of the world to be extended to all people everywhere. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They don't want that. They want to be in control. They want to rule. They want to make all the decisions for all the rest of us. And they want to be above the law so that they can involve themselves in things that are considered to be abominations. They don't want to follow the Ten Commandments because they don't care anything about serving each other and humanity. All right, we've got another caller. Let me take this and then I'll finish the rest of this answer. All right, caller, you had a question or a comment. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Zen, this is a hijacker. I'm only calling for a minute. You got a great show. I always catch you every week. Listen, I notice you keep using the term planet. Have you changed from going from planet to flat Earth, back to planet? I'm just trying to find out, where you're at on that.
No, brother, and I'm working on a book about it. But, anyways, I'm no, I'm not supposed to be talking about this right now.
Yeah, I just what I'm saying is that you use the word planet. I mean, is that you still believe that?
No, no, I
Okay,
don't.
okay, Zen. All right, thanks. Great show. You got a great show. I would get to contact you, but my computer got nuked and my Skype got wiped out, and so this is some cut off. Okay, Zen. Take care.
All right, you too. God bless.
Bye.
All right. So, anyways, um, going back to what I was talking about with this lady's question about hell and um, why it was created and how come God allowed man to come into existence, knowing that people would have horrible lives and suffer eternally. All right. So the whole thing is, again, this world is under the control of Lucifer and the fallen angels. And our falling into flesh is our chance to know good and evil, because Adam and Eve fell, they lost their bright nature, they lost their immortality. Then they would be exposed to the duality of good and evil. And it's the same thing for all of us now. And it's not just because Adam and Eve fell that we find ourselves in flesh incarnation. As I explain in my 6th book, Sons of God, and my 7th book, Skyfall, I talk about how our pre-existence, our being angelic beings and being part and witness to all of the things that occurred previous to our incarnation, as far as the our predestination and also our being witness to the war in heaven, those things led to our personal incarnation into flesh form and the circumstances of our lives. But it's only because we are given free will and we are allowed to come into this world and to learn through the duality and good and evil that we have a chance for redemption, and that we have a chance to realign ourselves with the Most High God, to come to know the truth, and to deny Satan and the fallen angels as far as aligning with them. And if you make those choices, if you make those decisions for yourself, you can be counted with the elect. And the elect, even though it's a minority, and even though, yes, most of humanity does choose and do choose to indulge in sin while in this world, still, those things are choices. We also have choice to be good people, to honor each other and one another, to follow the commandments, and to live according to the example of Christ. In being, you can still partake of the pleasures of this world, but you don't have to become so indulgent in them that you go to the side of, as far as being an abominable kind of person. You can be a good person and still take, still experience the pleasures of this world. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why God has allowed, even though this world is still under the control of Lucifer and Satan, and all the things that are evil are accounted to them, just as the book of Enoch tells us that the fallen angels, they brought down the mysteries of the heavens. They were the ones that taught humanity how to make weapons of war, how to kill each other, to murder each other, even to smite a child within the womb, how to utilize black magic to put curses on people, um, things of that nature, as cited by the book of Enoch. It's evil people that doing evil things cause themselves to fall away from God and to be counted with the children of perdition. And it's not just that because you're born of these particular blood lines or these blood families. That has nothing to do with it, because when Christ died on the cross, he offered salvation to all people everywhere. And even the children of Cain, even those born into Illuminati families, they can have salvation as long as they come to know truth. And as I outlined, the truth is contained within the gospel, within the scriptures, that speak about how, again, all these pagan deities are nothing more than the fallen angels parading as gods themselves. The exclamation by Lucifer that he wanted to be as the Most High. That's the deception. And those of you that are caught up in the strong delusion that believe the Anunnaki are creators, or that they are coming to save us, the aliens are coming to save us, all of that is a lie as well. It's part of the strong delusion. Or that they're going to bring in the golden age. It's not going to happen. And I know that because the word is 100% prophetic. And it tells us that the worst days that have ever been are coming. In the New World Order, they tell us the same thing. And that's, they're the ones that serving under Satan and Christ, serving under Satan and the devils, the demons, that's what they have planned. That's what they have in store for us. All right, so going back to Stephanie's question on why God would create hell, or why he would allow man to come into the flesh. He allowed man to be born into this world so that we can have part in salvation, not have part in hell. If that's the choice you want to make, well then, especially for those that are, we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back everybody to second hour. I want to, before we continue on, I just want to really thank everybody in the chat room and the listeners of Revolution Radio, because I know that a lot of you are, even where I was not even long ago, even though I've have come to full circle as far as my understanding and study of the gospel and the scriptures, for the longest time, I knew God, but I did not know or believe in the Son. I did not believe, and it did not make sense to me that God would even have a son. And so I didn't understand how all that played out until, as I said, I was brought full circle back to the scriptures. For 20 years, I studied everything outside of Christianity, and even though I was a fervent believer in the Creator, I did not accept, I believed, as many of you do now, that Christians were deluded and that they were narrow-minded and short-sighted. All right, we've got a caller, and then I'm going to answer back. All right, area code 413. You have a question or comment?
Yeah, this is Kevin from Massachusetts, a friend of Brother Zen's.
Hey, brother, how are you, man? It's really good to hear your voice. It's been a while. You doing okay?
Yeah, man, it's great. It's great to hear you. I've been following you, and just picked up on this particular show, and it's quite a diverse audience that you have here, and I just bless you in the things that you're doing. And coming from my background, breaking out of that new age thing that I did, I just want to remind people that you're here to hear everybody. I mean, the people that don't particularly believe in what we believe might come to a place where they find common ground with us if they just ask the Lord, like it had to happen to me. It's funny, Zen, coming full circle, like you've talked about with me before I even did shows with you, coming from my background and just looking at the scriptures and matching it up, and everything hits 100%. And as I see the deception that we're in, people get burned by that churchianity, and they're afraid to break out of that shell. They've been through the mainstream media, religion, and they just can't get a grip on that that's not what the Lord wanted us to do. He never told us to congregate in the church and with the bells and smells. He wants us to seek him on our own, and I just love what you do, and it's just great that you're still doing it after all these years.
Well, hey, I appreciate that, and why don't you join me next week, man, and let's do a show together here, and so you can talk about how it is that you came to, the understanding that I did, because for the listening audience, Kevin was involved in, he was abducted by aliens, by these fallen angels long ago in his life, and led him on a lifelong quest to kind of understand and make sense of all that. And so he was brought full circle in the same way that I was, to, even though I've never been abducted myself, but brought back to understand the gospel in the way that we currently do. And so I think that would be an interesting show, and give you a chance to share your story, and to speak about it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's just I love the way that the people in the chat, they're so diverse, and to let all the folks know out there, Zen wants those people. He's not seeking the saved. He's seeking the people just like Yeshua did, the people who don't believe, because you can't help somebody that's already saved. They know the deal.
Exactly.
It's the people out there. I mean, time is short, folks. I mean, I always say to my friends, listen, 50-50, you want to hear me, you don't want to hear me, but what does it hurt to believe? If you're wrong, and nothing happens. But if you're wrong and Jesus is right, the consequences are kind of your soul. So you got to get with it, and really, you got to get with it and study the scriptures. You just can't go off half-cocked and not know what you're talking about. And you and I, Zen, have been researching for 30-plus years. I mean, we know what we're talking about. And no, we're by no means trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. That's not what we're here for. We just lay it out there, and you take it and do with it what you will. But research. That's the key. And and for me, the telltale signs then was the only book that's been 100% accurate has been the Bible. I don't care which version it is. The Lord will come to you in any version. Right. If you really ask him. Right. But I would be more than happy to join you next week. I just wanted to call and touch base with you, and just express my love for you and all the folks out there that are in the chat room. Just don't get defensive. We're not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat, and I know, Brother Zen, you definitely don't. If everybody treats each other nicely, you will learn. I mean, once you put up that wall, it's hard to learn.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, brother, I appreciate you calling in, and yeah, um, send me a message, and we'll set it up for
All
next
right.
week. I'll bring you on, and we'll talk a little bit more. It's been a long
Sounds like
time.
a game. It's been a long time. God bless you. It sounds like a game plan, Zen. And
God
God
bless
bless
you
all
too,
you
brother.
folks out there.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Yeah. You know, it. I was on the other side of it, as many of you currently are, and so that's why I think my story and my understanding is unique because I haven't just studied the Bible my whole life. It's only been since 2006 that I was brought full circle and began to study the scriptures in the way that I have understood them. Well, actually, it was about 1996 that I began to study them, but that I awoke to the New World Order and was able to put that side of it together with all the other things that I've learned. And so I understand not believing um, as a lot of you do, and I totally respect and I honor each of you for where you are. And I'm not trying to force feed any of you into believing the way that I do now because I was lost for the longest time, and I know that um, that that a lot of people that accept, the ancient aliens or the Anunnaki and believe in that side of it, I did as well for a very, very long time. Again, until I was brought full circle back to again the word being 100% prophetic, and so and I am going to go back to answering Stephanie's question as I had covered it in the first part of the show. But I do want to remind the listening audience that Revolution Radio is the largest listener-supported, commercial-free, and corporate-free radio network out there on the planet and on the internet, and that we have a wide variety of eclectic hosts covering all of the most important topics and issues and current events from many different angles, both uh, Christian, non Christian, New Age, you name it. There's a wide variety of opinions and belief systems here, and that's also what makes Revolution Radio so unique is that we are a motley crew of eclectic different belief as far as believers and different ways of being and different have come to understanding on the world in different manner, and so that makes our fellowship that much more extraordinary, and and there's always room for learning from each other and in gaining insight from you know from people that have studied other different aspects of the strange nature of what's going on in the world and coming together and meeting here and utilizing Revolution Radio as a platform for sharing those opinions and sharing and having discussion with one another on all the things that we do talk about. um, that's what helps each one of us to grow and to learn more. I know that I've learned a lot of things from many of you as listeners. And the questions, the commentary, the links that you've shared, you've opened me up to stories and to things that I otherwise would have never been exposed to. Um, Interesting, individuals that you've asked me to interview and have given me the chance to do exactly that, to bring on people that I otherwise may have never have met and never had chance to share time and interview with. And so for that, I am eternally grateful to each one of you. And as I said, I honor you for where you are. And I'm only trying to help, to shed some light on um, what's going on here in, in my perspective of the world and its connections, as far as the elite's connection to the seed of Cain and to the children of the devil, because I don't know many people at all that talk about that angle. And I can't tell you how much grief I receive from speaking of truth along those lines. Because most mainstream or even alternative Christian radio host broadcasters, they won't touch me with a 10-foot pole just because I speak about that and because I've written my fourth book on that particular topic. And then the fact that I also, speak about our having pre-existed and that we were predestinated, that we were angelic beings before coming into the flesh, well, that just shuts off a whole nother huge portion of, the alternative Christian world. I mean, I'm really a black sheep. I'm an outcast, an outlaw um, among all of these different so-called Christian, as far as broadcasters or individuals. Most people won't associate with me, won't even email me back, won't, definitely won't do interviews with me, or won't interview me about the books that I've written. And so I'm really kind of alone in this world. I've got a foot in both worlds, kind of New Age and Christian, and I'm an amalgamation kind of both worlds because my background is so diverse and my understanding is in no way limited to one or the other. That's why I'm able to talk about how our focus manifests what we intend, and how energy works in that way, that what we put out as far as dharma or karma, that affects and creates the realities that we live in, how our choices and our intent um, bounce back and magnify and reflect onto our personal lives. And, all that's considered to be New Age. And so, but I don't, I'm not a part of any organized religion. I don't consider myself to be this or that. I personally am just a student and a disciple of the Most High God. And I happen to know that He has a Son, and that He sent His Son here to die on the cross in order to bring us truth and a chance for redemption and salvation. And as weird as that is, because again, I said I did not understand how and why God would need a son. And all that didn't make sense to me until, again, I came to the understanding of the scriptures in the way that I do now. All right, going back to, because I know that Stephanie has tuned in, and so I want to finish answering her question on why the Most High God would create a hell. Again, shortly, the answer was that He did not create hell for humanity, but He has expanded it to accommodate those that would align themselves with Lucifer and the rebel angels and that would commit abomination. Now, I don't mean just sin, because we're all sinners and we all fall away in some way. Um, and so He's not expecting us to be perfect, because none of us are. Christ was the only sinless and perfect individual that came into the life here and maintained Himself as such. And the only reason He was able to do that is because He was God incarnate, and He was to be the Passover lamb. If you know the story of Exodus, when the 10th plague was brought on the Egyptian people and Pharaoh, as well as the creatures that were there in Egypt, all the firstborn animals and children were slaughtered by the angel of death. And this plague is what freed. It was because of Pharaoh's arrogance. And if you don't know, Pharaoh used to, I mean, he was a very atrocious person. He used to bathe in the blood of Jewish children. Now, that quote and those sources are found in my fourth book, Lucifer, Father of Cain, because he was a very evil person. And he had these sores, and his magicians told him that if he bathed in the blood of young Hebrew children, that he would be cured of it. And so he would do this. And so, anyways, when the Passover lamb was slaughtered on the 14th of Nisan before sunset, then this lamb was celebrated and eaten over the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which took place on the 15th of Nisan. And the Passover lamb, the blood of this lamb was sprinkled on the doorposts and around the doorposts of all of the dwellings of the Hebrew people, the Israelites. And that was a sign for the angel of death to not touch the inhabitants within. And so Christ, as the Passover lamb, being, because the Passover lamb was to be without spot and without blemish, meaning a perfect example, a perfect, example of a young lamb. And Christ was this. And so his slaughter his crucifixion and his death and then his resurrection is what extends to all of us a chance for redemption and a chance for renewed allegiance with the Most High God. And so the answer to Stephanie's question is that we're not here to suffer eternally. Yes, we age and we die, and all of that is part of incarnating into the flesh and dying. And yes, all of us experience suffering. That is part of the duality that we have come to know. But all of that can lead to the glory that we can have as salvation in and through Christ, that we have a chance to have an eternal inheritance which returns us to our first estate, returns us to our immortal, bright-natured, angelic state of being. And that's what really this life is about. I know that especially now that the New World Order has firmly grasped the reins of global rule and has instituted police state measures and has made life not easy for a lot of people, and that many people are having difficult time even finding enough food to eat, even having enough money to make it from month to month. That these are very difficult times, and as I said, they will get increasingly more difficult because this is what the New World Order wants to bring upon the world. And they create money out of nothing, out of thin air, and then loan this money to the governments of the world at interest. And that's how they have increased their power. That's how they have garnered their control. And as I talked about with the Matrix, The Matrix was established by them as a way to indoctrinate all children into the whole belief system, materialism, that to buy more and to have a big house, and that happiness is all aligned with having a bunch of nice material things, and um, all the good things of life, and to be able to eat all the steak every night or whatever, when really you can enjoy life with the most simplistic. I mean, just having enough to feed your belly every day, even if it were to be, that you eat rice and beans every day. I mean, that is a huge blessing, but people don't see it as that anymore. We think that just because we can go to the grocery store and have access to all of what's available in the grocery store, that we should be able to eat different meat with every meal, and different things, uh, as far as all the good things that are in the grocery store, when there's so many people that are living on 80% of the world living on less than $2 a day, and that there's many kids that are starving, suffering just from not having enough to eat. But many of those children and those families, they find joy in the everyday, just from their simple existence. And many of them also have faith much greater than what Americans have. And here in this culture, in this in our country, we'll be right back for final segment. All right, welcome back, everybody, for final segment. And so, again, I just want to remind everybody that if you can afford to, though definitely don't put yourself out, please do go to freedomslips.com and support the network. Um, you can click on the donate button, it'll take you right to PayPal. Even if it's just for the price of one meal, the something that you would spend $10 on, you can purchase T-shirts, coffee mugs, the bullet drive with all the emergency resources, documents, the non-GMO seed packs, or buy access to the archives, and open yourselves to listening to all the different various hosts that you're not able to catch live, that may come on at a time when you're asleep, depending on which part of the world that you live in. And so, anyways, we appreciate you and your fellowship, and thank you in advance, for supporting the network in all the ways that you do. And so, what I was talking about as the war, with this particular bloodline that is dedicated to Lucifer. This is why you have the Freemasons and all these different secret societies that don't seem to be in any way associated together. Why it is that um, they, worship Lucifer as the light bearer, and why it is that things like ancient aliens, they are turning it upside down and say that um, that Lucifer or Satan is actually a good guy because he brought us different cultures all of these advancements. He brought technology, or Barossa speaks about how Dagon taught mathematics and different, um, as far as different linguistics and different sciences to the various cultures and peoples that he went to, and how these fallen angels, they have brought down a lot of technologies and a lot of advancements to all the different people of the world. But what they don't tell you is that they demand blood, children, and victim sacrifice as payment for their having brought down these mysteries and shared such secrets. Um, and so, anyways, going back to these particular bloodlines, the the fact that the sons of Adam do not know about the children of Cain, nor that they are waging war against us, and that they do not want goodwill for humanity, and don't want people to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or to have these same rights and freedoms and liberties extended to all people everywhere, as what most Americans believe our country was about, and that founded on these principles, that this is what we wanted for the world, and are going to war against these terrorists. That's what we're trying to do and trying to accomplish. What they don't realize is that from behind the scenes, it's these elites that actually fund the terrorists with our taxpayer money, and then they also put into power the different dictators and tyrants that have ruled over various countries of the world. And then when they get them to commit atrocities against their own people, they use that as a pretext to go and invade their countries and to steal their natural resources. And so unless you understand the controlled opposition and the way that the boogeyman is created by the elites and by the system, the matrix, and that this has been the modus operandi of the way that they have worked to not only overthrow countries, but to assert their power and their control, and to the theft of natural resources, even with the way that the International Monetary Fund works. They loan, millions, even billions of dollars to various dictators around the world, and then their people are responsible for paying that debt back. And in the meantime, these leaders, they squander the money. They use it in whatever ways they want to. They usually it's to purchase goods or services or supplies from the various transnational corporate companies that also are run by the elites of the world. And in that way, the IMF or the elites, they get their money back. They get to utilize this money as profit, and then all this debt is put on the backs of all the different peoples of the world. And that's how they create debt slaves and internment in that way. And that's how they've enslaved the whole world, is by utilizing such strategy. And so if you don't know that, yes, indeed, there is this particular bloodline here upon the planet, and that they utilize such techniques as a way to assert their control and assert their ability to do what they do, then you would be at a loss for trying to make sense of it all. Because it really, for the ordinary citizen, it absolutely does not make any kind of sense at all. I mean, how do you wrap your mind around the intricate workings, the intricate details of the manipulation? I mean, even the fact that they basically create money out of thin air and then loan it to the governments at interest, and then force people through taxes to pay this interest, and then they utilize this same money to fund both sides of a particular war, which includes the governments and also the terrorists, and then they pin these different minorities against each other, and funding both sides of the war is a great way to increase profit, and also to slaughter people that you consider to be useless eaters, and also to overthrow governments that you don't want in power. I mean, it's a win-win for them. And the whole time, we're like, okay, like with 9/11, with the how those terrorist attacks unfolded, and how many Americans were duped into joining the military, and how many Americans lost their lives or lost their limbs or had their lives changed from the wars of Afghanistan and Iraq, the improvised explosive devices, and how the elites were able to get rid of all of their old armaments. They sent the soldiers to war with pre-Vietnam stuff, you know? They were dropping bombs as fast as they could just to get rid of the old stuff. I mean, it is insane. And I really feel for all the soldiers, because here they're coming back having, been duped into supporting a war of aggression, because Iraq and Afghanistan, neither of them had anything to do with 9/11. They were tricked, as we were all tricked, by the attacks of that day. And they joined the armed forces in order to fight for the flag, to fight for their families and our country. And they put themselves in harm's way in order to kill these terrorists whom they thought were the ones that had masterminded the attacks of that day. And then, being exposed to the depleted uranium, and then taking the forced vaccines, and being shot at, and stop lost, and being sent over and over for 3, 4, 5 tours of duty, and then coming back and not being able to settle down to a normal semblance of life and civilian life, and having all the memories, and then not getting any support from the VA other than, here, take this drug. And then these soldiers are killing themselves off in droves because they're not getting any support from the VA system. They're being denied care. They're being denied their benefits. They're being denied any kind of monetary or, emotional or medical support. It's only because of the goodwill of the American people and organizations like Wounded Warrior Project and things of that nature that they are finding any help at all, because the government has failed them. And all of that has been on purpose. All of this has been done on purpose. And so I can understand, why they are down and depressed. But the thing again is, you have to do your homework. You have to do some research. You have to make truth and getting to the root of it part of your priority for life. Otherwise, you're just going to keep getting led astray. You're going to keep getting duped, and you're going to keep getting pulled into the overwhelming weight of this world, because that's the way Satan has established it. The matrix is imposed upon each one of us so that it is overwhelming to the point where it will drive a person mad, and you will get angry or depressed or in some way emotionally unstable. It's only by being grounded in a faith that is greater than this world and understanding that we are not here for getting caught up in all of this, that our true purpose is much greater than the carnal aspects of this world, and just having children and leaving a legacy. And whereas everybody thinks that, the whole point of our coming and being born into the flesh is to get a good education, get a good job, and when we're 65 and old enough and worn out enough, we can finally retire and enjoy the golden years. That is an illusion. That whole American dream is an illusion. Spending more money than you have, living beyond your means, that doesn't bring happiness. The truth of the matter is that happiness, true happiness, can only be found, in my opinion, in the certainty that we can have part in a salvation, in an eternal inheritance that will put us in an existence where we no longer are exposed to the evil that is so predominant here upon this world. And that we will live in a time where there will be no more suffering, a time and a place and a space where there's no more suffering, there's no more evil, there's no more hate, there's no more elites bearing down, oppressing others, or or there's no more bullies, there's no more as far as bosses or need to work for anybody else. There's not even a monetary system. I mean, the next world and what the Most High has available and prepared for us is beyond our able to grasp, as far as the differences and the kind of joy, the kind of ecstasy we will be in every moment experiencing, because we will be overwhelmed in the joy of just simply being. I mean, we can't even fathom that kind of joy, that kind of happiness. And then to also be within the presence of the Creator, the real God of all creation. I mean, we can't even imagine it. We can't even fathom it. It's the words fail to convey what that kind of experience is going to be like. The human mind is incapable of even imagining what kind of joy and what kind of experience of that kind of world will be like. And so that's what it's really about. And this world really, as far as the journey of immortal soul, one lifetime in the journey of immortal soul, it's nothing but a blink of an eye. And so, yes, we do suffer in this world. Yes, we are exposed to evil. But this evil was not created by the Most High God. This evil was created by the free will of the fallen angels and humanity in being led astray and deceived and taught to commit murder, to incite violence, to covet what our neighbors have, and the theft, the wanting more than what a person has, the love of material things, the love of money. These are the kind of things that create the evil that we see in the world. And so we can't blame God for those things, because we, in being led astray, humanity being led astray. And also, you have to remember that there is this bloodline here that is dedicated to committing these atrocities and perpetuating the evil and to murdering these sons of Adam. And as long as we don't know who they are and that there is a war being waged right here on this planet, we're never going to understand what is going on in world. And so that's my rant for the evening. And I pray for all of you. I pray that you can be brought to discernment that helps you to have eyes to see. If I could give everybody the understanding that I have, if I could give you a pill that would open you and make you aware and bring you to an awakening in the way that I see and am in this world, I would so wish that for you. Um, and you know, if we were all awakened, what a world this could be. If we all really understood and could follow the commandments and could, even the simple two that, you know, that Christ said that were based on love, just love God and love your neighbor as you love yourself. If we could just follow those two things, what an incredible place this could be. If we could just treat each other in the same empathy and in even the same way that we would want ourselves to be treated, what an incredible thing this would be. And so I pray for all of you, and I pray especially for those that are so lost that they don't believe in, you know, any kind of divine aspect of the world, that believe that we all just came about as random perchance happening, that, you know, they believe, these scientists, that we evolved of apes, and or even the neoteric theologians of ancient aliens, that, you know, the ancient alien program, that the Anunnaki are our creators, or that they're our benefactors, or that they're coming to save us, or, you know, blessings to you too, Hemp and Pale Rider. I appreciate all of you as well. Cortex, Share, Hippie Chick, Nighthawk, good to hear from you, brother. Good seeing you. Mr. Rowe, appreciate you as well. Sally, Briar, Karen and Jerbear and Comment and Shannon and SJ and Swami, appreciate you too, brother. I hope you have a good show. Swami Shiva will be on after this, and he's a very kind brother. Cortec and everybody else, just know that I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your friendship and your fellowship, and I hope that you don't mind me going on a rant sometimes. You know, I really am concerned for all of you. I really do love all of you, and I wish nothing but the best for you. That the ancient aliens, the, you know, the rebel angels or the Anunnaki, that many people consider them to be the creators of humanity. And there's also a friend had sent me a message in Facebook, which will lead into some of this discussion, and I'll get to her questions in the second part. and that will set, a good premise for what we will some of the other aspects of what we'll be talking about here. Because a lot of people, and I'm talking about very well researched individuals, some of those that I consider to be the wisest, most well researched, as well as well respected individuals that have written numerous books, but many of them, in my opinion, again, are caught up in this strong delusion, meaning that they believe 100% that the Anunnaki were the creators of modern humanity. And they also believe that they are going to be our saviors and that they're going to somehow restore the planet back to its former glory, and that we're all going to ascend together into the new age, and that it's going to be a glorious time of everything coming to light, and that all the secrets of our past and all the abilities and skills and things which we have lost in regards to abilities like telepathy and foreseeing the future and astral projection.
Most are afraid of unknown depths, skirting shores thinking world flat, and with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Fate for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new disposition. Seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the other worlds. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.FALLEN.ANGELS.TV. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Pick it up next week. The watchers whom left their place of habitation, abandoning their ordinances and making pact, conspired to go a-whoring after the daughters of Cain. They took wives of all which they chose, mixing with those women whom the Kebra Nagas says enjoyed the orgies without shame, scenting themselves for the men who would please them. Evil intentions govern the symbiotic relationship of pagan peoples with these so-called gods, the worship of which from initiation was imbued with demand for virgin, victim, blood, or child sacrifice. Modern Satanism in current piety reflects similar accord. What does that say about these so-called gods still ruling from behind the mask of mighty Oz? Most of humanity are still enslaved to such interpretation. The matrix, now ancient in subjection, is wrapped firmly in the talons of that great dragon, that old serpent known in sci-fi movies. They pale in comparison to the truth of what we are dealing with as humans, having been incarnated in the flesh here upon this planet, and to all the things that are connected to our prior existence, to our first estate, and that resulted in our being here in the flesh and having to contend with the fallen angels, the demons, and and also the children of Cain. This other bloodline, this other lineage, which has no allegiance or duty to the God that most of us worship, the creator, the one and only true God, the mastermind that brought all of creation into manifest being, including all of us and including all of the various angels which are parading around as gods and goddesses. I'll look at some of your commentary here in just a minute. I know that people are already speaking about, and so I'll try to get to that on the first break, hopefully, and then I'll be able to comment on some of the scroll in the chat. But wanted to just continue setting the premise for this ongoing discussion because, again, I think it's very relevant and very important because I find that so many people are caught up in what I consider to be the strong delusion. And the strong delusion, in my opinion, has to do with one, that and all the others that are not in the immediate scroll. As always, there's quite a number of people here, and for that I'm very grateful. Hello, Kevin from Massachusetts, and everybody else that is tuning in. And I will be reading your comments as well as I'll be taking phone calls from those of you that might be interested in sharing comment on what I'm going to be talking about this evening, as well as if you have questions, because this is a very interesting topic. And as I was speaking about before we went to break, it's my opinion that very few, are able to connect all the dots and bring together the underlying truth which is found within all things. Because even with what these so-called ascended masters or the ancient aliens, the people that are being abducted and being told different things, even those that were raised in Illuminati families and have memories of a certain aspect of the plan and are able to understand the agenda, so to speak, of the New World Order, as what Carolyn calls the organization. It's difficult to grasp all the various aspects of the bigger picture and to make sense of the weirdness that is associated to the reality that we are really dealing with, because it's so far out. I mean, Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica and all the other son as Satan and the devil, he who deceiveth the whole world. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen, and I thank all of you for taking time to join me this evening as we delve into all things esoteric and speak about and share dialogue on the ancient mysteries which have baffled the minds of most and leaving them in despair. Because few really are capable of understanding the underlying truth which ties together the ancient mysteries with the biblical prophecies and the strange conspiratorial nature of what we're dealing with as world. And for those of us that have wakened up, also I want to welcome everybody in the chat room. Those of you had that had said hello to me. I was AFK. I had to pull together a few things for this poem that I wanted to read prior to this show because it would set premise for what I'm going to talk about this evening. It's going to be a follow-up on what I had begun last week in talking about the timeline as far as the incursion of not only the rebel angels, which fell and were here before the creation of humanity, but also the incursion of the Watchers, which took place during the time of Yard. And so I will go into that in more detail, but just wanted to thank all of you in the chat room, Doc and Mad Painter, Zaphod and Zippy, Thunderbird, Pale Rider, Monkey, Tracy, Kevin, Link,